Hey, welcome to Cannard Farm and Greenstring Farm. I'm Bob. Been at this since 1976 when I dropped out of the commercial nursery industry with all its bad chemistry and have engaged in natural process farming and development of my theories on it since, including weeds and weed management and how they participate in development of the farm ecosystem. The Cannard Farm I started in '76, and it's here on Sober Vista Road. We're at 20 acres of small crops, mixed fruits, vegetables, nuts, herbs. It's like a big home garden. It has served farmers markets, and in the last 25 years it served a restaurant that serves approximately 500 people a day. How would I describe my relationship with weeds? Why, they're, I feel, my #1 crop. They're the food that is going to allow the next cycle of crop to grow. And I like weed seeds. I let them all grow. Amaranthus plant will produce, there's just in this little lettuce patch behind you, I'll bet there's 1 million amaranthus seeds in there. And those are food for the birds. I have loads of birds around here, seed-eating birds, and they are part of the digestive system. They're part of the inoculators. They provide, encourage, and nurture the birds. The deer come into the garden at night, and they don't eat the vegetable plants at all. They eat the seed heads of the amaranthus and prune the amaranthus a little bit. The weeds are #1. The vegetable plants, they're a secondary response of having a good soil and a good digestive system. And a lot of people don't like weeds. Well, I love weeds. And it is all about managing the population densities and controlling the time-space sharing between the different cropping systems. We always grow 2 things in the garden. 50% of everything, all the organic biomass that grows in the garden is for food for people, and 50% of it is for nature. And it's all about managing the interrelationship between the pair of them. And it's time-space sharing. My biggest concern when I see weeds is that I'm going to manage, and have I done it right? When you start to introduce multiple cropping systems and vigorous weeds with less vigorous plants, it's all a matter of timing, the proportional space that they have. A patch of lettuce, which is a caudiferous low-growing plant, needs early establishment. But then when the lettuce plant is 3/4 of the way to maturity, then I want the weeds to manifest itself because it protects them from sunburn and from early stage bolting and from dirtiness. We pick lettuce all the time, and it's clean. Never wash it. Pick it, field trim, pack, it goes right to the restaurant. Never washed. The biggest concern is the management. I've lost a lot of crops learning how to manage the multiple cropping system. It's delicate. It is very site specific, but at the same time, it's very important if you want to grow a soil. Soil life's the foundation of it all, and in order to have good soil life, you've got to have plants all over the ground all the time. And we allow our weeds, whatever kind they are, to be naturally aspiring or planted types, to grow to as much full degree of maturity as possible, so that when it comes time for renewing a cropping cycle, we aren't really killing anything, we're just renewing them. They have died of their own maturity, they've died of contentment, and so we get to incorporate etheric contentment and physical, mature, durable organic matter into the soil. And that mature, durable organic matter in a temperate climate like this has a longer than 1 year half-life. So we get steady state building of soil carbon, which is the carbon-hydrogen bonds that is the fuel food for the soil biology. And you grow a soil while you feed humanity. Weed management practices that I use are based upon maturity, of allowing the weeds to come to as close to maturity as possible, and then mowing them with a flail mower and cultivating the ground shallowly and as little as possible with cultivation implements, primarily on this farm, a rototiller. and usually at 2-3 inches in depth, and disturbing the soil as little as possible, and introduction of the new crop, and then subsequent controlling of the weed population by in-row cultivation, like let's say it's carrot, and they are fairly long-term germinators, and let's say that they go into a piece of ground that has amaranthus on it, so a wheel hoe will come and spill a little lift of soil right over the carrot row that the amaranthus is already germinated in, and if done correctly, there will be very few in-row weeds, and depending upon the spacing, the whole area might be clean cultivated for a first month or so of establishment, and then it'll be let go, or some other weed seed will be planted at the last cultivation, and the weeds in a bigger row, such as a winter squash, will be a summer squash will be clean cultivated within the row and mowed between the row once to 3 times, depending upon what's happening. And if we're in orchards, then the cover crop, it will be allowed to come to full maturity and die completely of its own volition. In those circumstances, we have the human food crop of the lemon or the peach or the walnut or the cherry or the apple or the pear or the plum or the persimmon or the mulberry. That's the mature perennial canopy. It's up here, and so the whole ground cover is allowed to come to full maturity and just mowed 1 time. And that's all that's required. And most of those trees are, once established, the root systems and the digestion and the percolation of the rainwater don't require any irrigation. As I tried to get across, every cropping cycle is going to be different, depending upon what you're growing and what season it is and what variety of and density of weed seed population you have. If we went out into the garden, you'd see crops of various early summer stuff that's sprouting up that's been clean cultivated while it was establishing and is now having its nature crop come up underneath it, and we might find a field of pepper plants, and those pepper plants have a tendency to get their fruit sunburned. Well, the weeds will grow up if properly. The buckwheat, let's say, will grow up in and amongst the peppers and be very beneficial to protecting the crop from sunburn and diversifying the canopy environment and stimulating a wide range of different insectivorous organisms. And we might go out into a zucchini field, and in a zucchini field we'll have a row of zucchinis and summer squash, and then a row of weeds. The limitation is you have to be a farmer. You have to pay attention. You have to be concerned about your plants. You have to be there. And we grow, as I said, many different kinds of croppings and continuous cycles of many different things. And so you've got to be there, and you've got to be on it. And if you slack off, why, the weeds are going to take over, and you're going to have plenty of soil food but not enough people food. I've lost many crops, delicate, sensitive weed competition, onions and garlic. They don't like competition. They love to have to get established. And I've lost many crops of onions because of inattentive, lack of understanding of when the transition points are between when I'm growing garlic and when I want to overtake it with a crop of subclover. Pay attention, be on it, observe, do it right at the right time. You are lax in early stage weed management in a direct zone crop, you're going to get so far behind you can't deal with it. You're going to lose the stand. Pay attention, timing. It used to be that we had a very big planet and a rather small population, and that was one set of economics. And in that period of time, we learned the foundations of agriculture, all for people and nothing for nature. And now we have the same foundation, but we live in a different economy where we have a small planet and a bigger population. And the nothing for nature is exposing ourselves to all sorts of damages to the soil structure, and we need to modify and develop all sorts of social consciousnesses, and one of them is associate with caring for nature while we produce our own food. And it's totally doable.